Warning, the Catholic Man Show is about to begin. If you're looking for a dull, feel-good religion, or clap your hands, sit around the campfire kumbaya, you've come to the wrong place. We are dealing with toxic levels of authentic masculinity. I would say good luck, but luck is for pagans.
Welcome to this very special edition of the Catholic Man Show. We are on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting in studio. Dave to my left, we got Juan on the buttons. We have a very special guest with us this evening, returning guest with us. I guess it's not evening, it's still afternoon. I'm used to recording in the evening times, but we have Sam Guzman here of The Catholic Gentleman, and then we also have some of our best friends from College Station. We're recording this live for SEEK21 at College Station.
There they are.
Yeah.
All right.
There they all are. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. Sam, thanks for hanging out with us as well.
Yeah, so Sam, you are the Catholic gentleman. Of all the gentlemen, you're the Catholic one.
You're the Catholic one.
The one and only. No, I'm just kidding. No, hopefully there's a lot of Catholic gentlemen out there. Hopefully I'm not the only one. So.
Whoop! Yeah.
There it is. Whoop!
Thanks for being with us today. So we're doing a little bit of we're changing it up just a little bit to accommodate the conference. We're going to be talking about holy leisure, talking about friendship, and possibly matrimony. Seeking holy matrimony.
Seeking holy spouses.
Holy
yes.
spouses.
We also have we should introduce Thaddeus as well from
and we
Red
have
Sea
Thaddeus
Radio.
Romansky.
Yes, from Red Sea Radio. He's with us as well.
Hey,
there he
fellas.
is.
Great to be with you. We've got a great, excited crowd. They're still coming in. Let's give them another whoop from College Station, guys. Let them hear that Aggie yell.
Gig 'em.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I heard you talk about seeking holy matrimony and seeking holy leisure. I see what you did there, because it's the Seek conference. It's very good.
It's very
you guys
punny.
are clever.
We're very punny.
We're very punny, yes.
I didn't make it up, but I like to take credit for things. So
Okay, so we're gonna start off by talking about seeking holy leisure. So hopefully each one will kind of bleed into the next topic. Joseph Pieper is one of the guys that I go to. We call him the Peepster on the show.
Totally.
He's the go-to guy when it comes to leisure. He wrote a book on leisure, the basis of culture. He was a German philosopher. He was a Thomist philosopher. I think he died in the 1990s.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Is that right?
That sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think that in order for us to talk about cultivating holy friendships and then ultimately, hopefully, finding a holy spouse, we have to provide ourselves with the opportunity to cultivate those friendships,
right,
which would be in holy leisure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so leisure is one of those interesting things because when you compare it with friendship, you discover that friendship and leisure are ordered towards each other. Mm-hmm. So you develop friendships so that you might have holy leisure, and you have holy leisure so that you might develop friendship, like authentic friendships. Mm-hmm. And so they're self-feeding, self-fulfilling. So it's very, very important, and I think it's something that really our culture has lost. It's certainly the American culture. There's more of a work ethic, historically speaking, where we prize and value just work. And then out of that, I think, came this idea that you rest on the weekends so that you can go back and work more, right? Which is not what the Catholic philosophy of work and leisure would uphold.
Right. I think it's even interesting that because we are so work-oriented that you can tell that we're so bad at leisure, because what happens when we actually have free time? We do one of two things. We either go and work more during our free time, or we pick up our phone and scroll mindlessly through Facebook or something like that.
Right, yeah.
It's almost like we don't know how to handle leisure, like our leisurely time.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, it's just empty space that represents boredom, essentially. You got to fill it with something, got to fill it with some sort of stimulation or, something to distract you. But again, it's just kind of like, well, what now?
Yeah.
And I think if we can develop a sense of meaning around leisure, that it's not something that's completely pointless or just a break from the mental stress or physical stress of the work week, but there actually can be something higher to it. I think we'll find more meaning in it. And
and this is one of those books that the Leisure, the Basis of Culture by the Peepster, is one of those books that you just have to go and read. We're not obviously going to be able to plumb the depths of that book in 12 minutes, but what he gets at in this book is that ultimately the liturgy is the highest form of leisure, and that there is something pointless about the liturgy. You're not doing anything while you're not building something or achieving something. You can't look back and say, here's what I did during the liturgy today. It's from a human standpoint or from a secular standpoint, maybe it's just totally pointless. And often leisure is that way. It seems that way. And it's not until you understand the deeper meaning behind what you're doing and who we are. I think understanding leisure comes from an understanding of who is man? What was he made for? Ultimately, the end of man is God. He is who we are made for. And so if we don't take time to rest and simply be with him, then you're kind of wasting your life away.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, he even says, he defines leisure. He says, leisure is an attitude of mind and a condition of the soul that fosters a capacity to receive reality in the world. To receive,
give me some of that reality.
Yeah, reality in the world. To realize what is real and what is not real.
Yeah.
Social media isn't necessarily real. You don't have real conversations compared to sitting in front of you and me and talking.
I think it's interesting if you go back to the original template of work and leisure. St. Benedict actually wasn't the first one who came up with the idea of ora et labora, prayer and work. It actually goes back to Genesis. The 6 days of creation, God created, and then on the seventh day he rested. What was God trying to tell us there? He was trying to tell us something because we know that God cannot expend energy.
Right.
He's not actually tired.
He doesn't get tired, right?
Yeah. And in addition to that, he's outside of time. So 6 days, 7 days, there's no such thing to God. So it was actually a lesson there for us. What was God trying to communicate to us? And I think the ultimate lesson there is how we should view time. Time as a window to eternity. Sanctified moments that we set aside, maybe even on a daily basis, that time for prayer and rest that we can build into our day, prayer, rest, meditation, just setting aside those sacred moments that are set apart from the busyness and bustle of everyday life. But also during the week, there also needs to be a sanctified time. There really is kind of a window into eternity, to our eternal state, where what are we going to be doing in eternity is creative play, contemplative play, if you will. Where we are gazing upon, the splendor of God, but also just maybe there will be creativity in heaven, but it won't be creativity that's exhausting. It will be kind of that exuberant, energetic play that is represented by God's own creativity.
Yeah. So I have a question for you guys about leisure.
If I can jump in here from great state of Texas and add something to the conversation. I want to just mention that as a husband and a father, I struggle with giving my children enough time to play, but also trying to instill discipline in them and finding that correct balance between doing what your job is or your requirements are, but still finding that time to thank you, my good man. Still finding those times to really enjoy the being human and having the human experience. And the same thing is important in your marriage, that you and your spouse find time to have a merriment together. You find time to do leisure activities together. That it's not just a grind of getting the kids dressed and getting them fed and getting them to bed, and so that you can go to sleep, so you can go up and to go to work in the morning. So that even works into the dynamic of family life, right, fellas?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you got to be intentional. If you're not intentional about it, like you said, Thaddeus, you end up going through the grind, you go through the day, and you realize, oh, I haven't taken my wife out on a date in 3 months, or I haven't spent time with my daughter one-on-one since her birthday. So you have to carve out these times. You have to be intentional. I think even like in the college world, I can remember on Sundays you have to make sure that Sunday is a day of rest. In some aspect, it has to look different. As a Catholic, Sundays have to look different for us than every other day of the week, because that's the day of rest for us.
Right.
And so if that means that we have to kind of do a little bit more homework on Saturday, so that way we can rest a little bit more on Sunday, then so be it. Or if that means as a dad, I have to make sure that I get all my chores done around the house, so that way I can rest and have family time on Sunday, then, so be it. That's what you have to do. But there are small sacrifices you have to make in order to be intentional about being having a leisurely activity.
So, Adam, is watching television leisure?
I actually thought you were going to ask that. And it depends on what... It depends is the answer. The answer is it
can be.
depends.
It can be.
It can be.
Yes.
Nice dodge.
But most of the time, it is not. So when we get back, we're going to jump into friendships. We're here with Sam Guzman of the Catholic Gentleman and Thaddeus of Red Sea Radio here at SEEK21. We'll be right back.
Okay, anybody want to come up here, ask the guys a question from anything?
My track is not recording.
I'm right here in front of the camera, my friend. All right, you got a question from?
Can't see him. There he is.
Give him your name.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Kenneth, and my
What's up,
question
Kenneth?
is, what is y'all's favorite form of leisure?
Ooh, that's a great
Kenneth.
question.
Hey, Kenneth, don't walk away yet. Don't walk away, Kenneth. We got some swag here for you, man. Take one of those hats while you're listening.
Okay, so my favorite, like I have actually two. I have one. My favorite form of leisure is hanging out with these guys. These are some of my best friends, and so being able to have a nice drink at night hopefully by like a fire pit, and just have like meaningful, real conversation about fatherhood, about what I'm struggling with, what they're struggling with, and just the camaraderie. That's one of my favorites. And then also chopping wood. Chopping wood is like one of my favorite leisurely activities.
Who's for chopping wood here in College Station? Okay, got some wood choppers here.
Good. There's a guy named Dr. John Cuddeback. If you guys have ever heard of Dr. John Cuddeback, go check him out. It's like lifecraft.org, I think is what his website is. But he made a comment one time, Sam. He said, there are very few things in life that can't be resolved by taking your boys out and chopping wood. And I was like,
it is fun.
I dig.
Good exercise,
I dig.
too.
It's good exercise. It's gives you an opportunity to be in the real and in the real world. Chopping wood is what's your favorite leisurely activity?
Looking at myself in the mirror. I'm just kidding.
That's some real contemplation.
Yeah, some real contemplation.
Well, I will tell you that there are certain leisure activities that exist in the married life that don't exist in the single life. Those are some of my favorites. It's not.
Indeed.
Yes, it's like not all that, but just really being with my wife.
Yes.
My favorite part of the day is after the kids go down, and Pamela and I can just
rest.
Yeah, just talk. Just sit there on the couch and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Date
absolutely.
Nights at home.
Date nights at home.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with Adam. Like, hanging out with friends is just one of the most enjoyable things, especially like-minded friends who share your values and you can have those deep, meaningful conversations with. Or also just hang out, no pressure either way, just just see what happens, and sometimes things will get spontaneously just like really deep, and before you know it, we're talking about something like really philosophical or something. Or sometimes it's just, goofing off, joking, but just spending time with friends is one of the great joys of life, which kind of is a great segue into our next section. But also, I love to read. Like, I'm a bibliophile, and I think reading is something that enriches your soul, and also, for me at least, is restful and relaxing. And there's been many times when I've just been in a conversation with somebody or something, and something I read maybe 5-10 years ago comes to mind, and like, so it's always like feeding your soul, whether or not you realize it in the moment. But to me, it's just relaxing and enriching. So I like to read. I like to be outside in nature, take hikes, things like that. So those are probably the top 3: hanging out with friends, being outdoors, and then reading.
Adam, you mentioned chopping firewood. I also, one of my favorite leisure activities really is having
Pen at the
fire.
hand.
Yeah, good question.
Do we have time for one more question before we go to the next segment? Or do you want to
Sure.
go? Do we have for one
Yeah,
more?
sure, we got
more
time.
questions. One more. Okay, big man on campus here, Spencer Purdy.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. I'm one of the focus missionaries, and I think a conversation that we have in our apostolate a lot is for those of us who do campus ministry who sometimes have to work or be present on Sundays. How do we live the Sabbath well? Is it like having a certain amount of hours where we're Sabbathing, maybe on a different day or during that day? But what are some good pointers that you guys would have, like if we actually do some quote unquote work on Sundays?
Yeah, man, that is a really good. That's a tough thing. I have another friend who works at a parish here in town, and Sunday is one of the days that he is busiest, just because that's, he's got to be there for mass, helping with the choir and help. He's the guy at the parish who kind of does everything. So I've talked to him about that, and it's a real struggle for him. I can just tell you that he has taken Monday, because he also Saturday is not. So he's just taken a day, which is in his case Monday, and made sure that he can get that leisure time then. So that seems to work for him, and I would recommend that. I mean, you have to have a day off, right? Even priests get Monday off, right? So if you got to work on Sunday, maybe you should take that. But just you got to figure something out, and it's just got to work. Whatever works for you. I wish I could give you a better answer.
I would just piggyback and say just making sure that your Sunday, like, you're as prepared as you can be for Sunday, meaning read the readings ahead of time so that way you can be fully engaged in the Mass. In fact, Pieper talks about how the actually ultimate leisurely time is divine worship. So making sure that you are mentally and spiritually ready to be fully there in Mass. So have the readings read ahead of time. Make sure that you're in the state of grace. Making sure that you're just actively, in prayer at Mass, I think will also help.
Yeah, and I'm just building off of what you guys said. I think the lesson of the Sabbath is sanctifying time, setting time aside that can be a window into eternity. The church fathers talk about, there's the 7 days of the week, but then the 8th day. What is the 8th day? It's eternity. And if you set aside even 5 minutes during the week, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you have the capacity for, and sanctify that time and set it aside for prayer and contemplation, for worshiping God, giving thanks to Him, Eucharist, giving thanks. That's what the Eucharist is. That can be a holy thing. So yes, like the guy said, just find the time that works for you, but make sure that wherever that is, whenever that is, that you're setting aside time that can be a window into eternity, and into the worship and joy that we will experience there.
Right, and it's not also just about resting. It's also about celebrating. So on Sundays, maybe you have a nicer beer than you do on Saturday. Maybe you have your Sunday beer, or you've got, you're going to have a better meal. Just some way that sets Sunday apart from all, there's something about Sunday that you look forward to that's different. Even if you don't have time to take a nap in front of the fire like I do.
You do?
Yeah, dude. On Sundays.
Wow.
I'm telling you, man, life's good over at my house. But yeah, so that's I would try something like that, Whatever works in your schedule. It's tough.
Let's give it up for Spencer.
Thanks, Spencer.
Good question, Spencer. All right, on with the show.
Yeah, let's roll.
What's in that picture, Dave?
It's
One of
just
those-
water.
Water. We were joking around beforehand, like, you know what? We should have solo cups on the desk. I think the college audience would appreciate we drinking our water from a solo cup.
Are you sure it's not vodka?
Well, it could be.
Vodka on the
You don't
You will
know.
know. You will know very soon because he's gonna drink it.
You do not know. Could be.
All right. Juan is like, all right, before we get sued, let's move on.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan and our good friend Sam Guzman. We've got Juan Posada over on the buttons. We are Sans Jimbo Spencer today. We're without the bodyguard. I feel exposed.
Hopefully, no one breaks in.
Yeah, I mean, someone could just walk right through that door. And we're recording. It's not like we could stop them, right? They could. It's just. I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what.
We'll make it.
By God's
Did you
grace,
say Jimbo Spencer or Jimbo Fisher?
Spencer.
Spencer. That was well played, Thaddeus. Well played.
I just wasn't sure. I mean, I didn't know he had a connection to the Man Show. That's pretty incredible.
He's gonna
well
like
played.
that. He'll like that.
Yeah.
So all right. So now we're gonna be talking about friendship.
Yes. For the next 2 segments, we'll talk about friendship. And the
Okay.
importance of it.
So friendship is one of those things that everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go in every country. If you go up to somebody and ask them, "Do you have good friends?" Almost everybody will say yes. Almost. There are some people like, "Nah, man, my friends are the worst." But that's certainly not the not going to be the common response. But Aristotle, he kind of wrote the book on friendship, and he actually says in the Nicomachean Ethic that most people in the world, in the secular world, don't actually have any authentic friends, even though they think they do. And they don't have any because they themselves are not capable of being an authentic friend. So that's something that really caught my attention when I read that. And so he goes on to explain, that without living a virtuous life, without being a virtuous person, you're not capable of being a friend because you cannot give what you don't have. So if you don't have virtue, then you can't give that type of charity, that type of, friendship love to somebody else.
Correct.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So he describes that there are 3 types of friendship, just briefly. There are friendships of pleasure, just someone that you enjoy being around, so that you have fun with. Mm-hmm. Friendships of utility. This would be like a coworker, someone whose friendship is useful to you. And then the authentic friendship. And so he says that we should be striving for the authentic friendship, and that's just one that has the good of the person at the source of it. So friendships of utility and pleasure. I'm a friend with you because of what I get out of it, right? I find
Like
our
college student, like
a
study buddy.
a study buddy, right? Yeah, like hey, let's get together and study. It's not a bad friendship.
Right.
Those friendships aren't bad, but they're just not the highest level of friendship. Once the class is over, you probably won't see that person anymore, right? So we should be striving for this authentic friendship to have some of these. You can't have this level of friendship. It's a big commitment. You can't do it with everybody.
So Dave, how did you react when you told Adam that he was your authentic friend and he told you that you were just a friend of utility? I mean, what was that like to have to go through that initially?
I knew it already. That was the thing. I mean,
it was scarring for him.
That's just one of the things that makes me so holy, Thaddeus, is that I just willingly bear the burden for so many people. Yeah. It's really hard, but
I knew that was the answer that we were going to get, and that's thank you for setting such a great example, Dave. How many people here in the audience could say, let's say with like a whoop or a clap, you could say that you have one authentic friend? That's beautiful to hear that many claps and whoops. That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us, how can we find more authentic friendships and deepen those authentic friendships, guys? Go.
Do you want to go? Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Well, I would say pursue deeper levels of conversation. I mean, a lot of times we keep it at a surface level. You know, hey man, what's going on in your life this week or whatever. Just something, just very like casual, friendly. That's nothing wrong with that. But try to go a little bit deeper. You know, guys we don't really like to talk about feelings and stuff like that. But at the same time, like if you're really struggling with something, tell your friend. Or if you've really been pondering something, like really like wrestling with a philosophical idea or like, just something really deep, open up to your friend about it and see what they think and just see where that conversation goes. But one of the themes that I've been pondering myself lately is just the relationship between the words conversation and conversion. They both have the same root word, the Latin conversare, which means to turn about together. It's almost like a form of growth and learning, almost akin to repentance or conversion, where you're growing and learning together through the process of conversation. A good conversation, a holy conversation, can be a spiritual event almost,
Sure.
where you both come out the other side changed. So just go a little deeper with your friends and find out what happens. Maybe they've been longing to kind of go past the surface level too, but they just were worried, well, no one wants to do that. Let's just keep it superficial. Let's keep it casual. Just go a little deeper. Talk about the big issues, if you will.
And when you do that, set a rule at the beginning. No one is allowed to use the word coronavirus or COVID-19. You cannot talk about that. I mean, that's like the one thing that every conversation you've had for the last year, that has come up at least one time in every single conversation. It's like, you have to make rules sometimes. But you're right about a conversation, because when you have a deep conversation, and when you have it, right, both parties leave changed.
Yeah.
You're not the same person anymore.
Right. And don't be afraid of a good argument either. I just read the Fellowship. It's a great biography of the Inklings. And these guys love to argue and challenge each other and push each other and be like, call them out when they saw like a logical inconsistency or something. And that just made them so much stronger and better as individuals and help challenge their thinking, clarify it, improve their writing. So just challenge your friends, in a good natured way, not a hostile way, but, in a good argument can be a good learning experience as well.
And I think sometimes it just comes down to having to decide to commit to being a better friend. Sometimes you have to just say, you know what, I'm going to pick out these couple people, and I'm going to really make a commitment to being a better friend for them. And incorporating them into my life more. That is the main ingredient of friendship is a shared life, a life in common. Your lives need to overlap. Without that, you can't have that. Here's my life for you and your life for me exchange of charity that is really essential.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you have to cultivate this holy leisure that we talked about.
Right.
Earlier, is that you have to say, okay, I can only have so much bandwidth to exert like the amount of energy towards another person. I can't be a best friend to everybody, but I can be a best friend in the authentic friendship way to a handful of people. So how do I do that? I'm intentional about it. Like Thaddeus, we were talking about right before the break. You be intentional about it. You set aside a day where you say, okay, I'm going to invite them over. I'm going to be hospitable towards them. I'm going to cultivate this atmosphere that will give good, meaningful conversation to where we can actually be friends towards one another.
Right.
Yeah, and if you say, well, I don't have any friends, well, reach out. Like some of my best friends in life are those who I just was like, I want to get to know that person. I just walked up to them like, hey, would you and your family want to come over to our family's house and have dinner with us? Mm-hmm. Just like kind of out of the blue. And they're just like, sure. And people are hungry for connection, and it's something that's kind of deteriorated in our culture, but people want that. So reach out. If you see somebody on the college campus you want to get to know, just go ask them, like, hey, man, you want to...
Well, Sam, we're a perfect example of that. When you moved to Tulsa, we were like, hey, Sam, come hang, come. We have a Saturday or a Friday morning group, men's group, that we meet every Friday morning at IHOP. We have been doing it for 8-10 years, something like that. And when we found out that Sam was moving to Tulsa, we said, hey, Sam, come hang out with us. Come be in our men's group. And we brought, we brought you in, and what'd you do immediately? You invited us right back over to your house.
That's right.
And you reciprocated that. And so it just gave us a good foundation of friendship.
Yeah. And if you're looking for things that can be, because some people say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to meet friends, or I don't know, some people just, maybe you're drastically, crushingly introverted or something, right? I don't know. Anything.
Like Juan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No. But anything that can be done in moderation can be done together. Okay, so whether it's drinking or smoking a pipe, if you like that, or eating food, or think about the things that require moderation in your own appetites of whatever they be. Do those things in moderation together with somebody else. And you have a human experience where you're both exercising virtue at the same time. And those, in my experience, those types of things tend to naturally elevate the experience for both of you together, because you need to start building things in common. And that's how you start. So what is it that you like to do, and do that with somebody else? What do you think, Thaddeus?
Yeah, hey, I was going to jump in with to go back to Aristotle. I think he said that friendship is based on two people who have shared loves, right? And so the more that those shared loves are about eternal things, or the higher things, or the greatest goods in life, the greatest of all being God, then the higher and more authentic that friendship is going to be. So
for just about everybody, and still having some good conversation. It doesn't have to be about transubstantiation or why, or about papal infallibility or something. But I can just tell you, some of my coworkers, they all know that I'm Catholic, and we still end up talking about it a lot. I'm not trying to convert them, but we also talk about guns and whiskey and cigars and all these other things. So we have this basis of friendship. So when those other things do come, when the religion part does come up, they respect me for it.
There's trust.
I think it holds more weight.
Yeah.
I think so. Is that your question? I want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Just how to develop deeper relationships with your friends who aren't Catholic. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if I was Aristotle, I would tell you that's problematic, because he would say that you actually can't attain this authentic level of friendship at the highest degree with that person, because they don't, and it's not because they don't want what's good for you, but they don't know what is good for you. Okay, so ultimately, Christ is the highest good for you. That is what your friend should desire for you at the highest level, right? So if you have a friend who's an atheist, they're not going to desire that for you, because they don't know that that's what they should be desiring for you. So they're just not going to be capable of bringing you to Christ. And so that relationship is just never going to be as authentic as another one with a Catholic brother or sister.
I just have two things I want to jump in and add real quick. Two things. One, how can you make the Catholic faith attractive? I mean, are you living it fully and completely yourself? Because if you are, it's going to be impossible for that to not come up in your conversations.
Right.
Like, hey, man, you want to hang out? Sorry, I can't. It's a holy day of obligation. Like, what the heck is that? And then it gives you an opportunity to share with, joy and enthusiasm the fact that we worship together as Catholics through the liturgical year, and there's certain things like that that are significant to us. It's a great opportunity for evangelization, but also not in the sense that you have to convince them to believe the same thing, but just say, this is an important part of my life.
Right.
And people will be naturally curious, at least in my experience. Whenever you say certain things about living the Catholic faith, people are curious. And so I think that's a really, make the faith attractive. But also people, when you say I'm Catholic, if they're a Protestant, they'll often think, oh, that means he doesn't know anything. Now we have an opportunity to convert him. It's just say, be knowledgeable about your faith, and I think they'll naturally be impressed by that. Wait, you're Catholic and you actually love Jesus? That blows my mind. You have an answer for their most common questions and things like that. St. Paul encouraged us to be ready with an answer, to give an answer to those who challenge us on our faith. So just be prepared, be knowledgeable, and let your love of Christ shine through. Because a lot of people hear the words, "You're Catholic," and they think lukewarm, cold, ignorant, don't love Christ.
Apathetic.
Apathetic. So many misconceptions. So just blow their mind with your enthusiasm and your joy and your love of Christ. And I think they'll be naturally converted by that, or not converted, but impressed by that.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
Yeah, it'll open doors.
All right, we got time for one more.
Yeah,
Cool.
Sure.
All right, come on, step on up.
Hello, my
What's
name
up,
is
man?
Anthony. I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good. All right, so I have a question. How do you help a friend who has lost their way when sheer direction doesn't work? So you've given them lots of advice and it doesn't work. How do you kind of guide them back?
Man, yeah, that's
a
really
great question.
that's really tough, and those can be really painful situations to go through. When you have this friend, someone you care about, and you're watching them self-destruct, and you tell them you shouldn't do this, and they say, "I know I shouldn't do it," but then they do it anyway. There's only so much you can do to guide another person. You cannot make choices for other people. That's just at the end of the day, you can make your own choices. Other people are going to make their own choices. And so in a friendship, maybe all you can do is just stay by their side and, tell them again, like, yeah, I know you're a total idiot. Remember we talked about that? It's like the thing we talk about a lot, how dumb you are. It's okay. I still love you. I don't know. Maybe that's all you can do. Be there to pick them up.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Is like build that trust by when you see them down, when you know that they're having a bad day, go through the extra effort of sending them a text or giving them a call, asking them if they want to go grab a coffee or something like that, or like drop off a meal to them or something like. I find that some of the smallest things that I do, like that, these little hints. My grandma is phenomenal at this. Like when she just gets this little hint, this little like Holy Spirit like push. She stops what she's doing and does this thing. Whether it be like, hey, we should be praying for my dad right now. Okay, let's start praying. And she just stops what she's doing and prays. So a lot of times I get these like little Holy Spirit moments of like, I should reach out to that person. And a lot of times I get busy and I don't ever reach out to them. Or I should give them a call and I don't ever do it. But I think that if we're more in tune to that, push that God is calling us to, and reach out to people and build that trust, that relationship up with them when they are going through these hard times, when they do hit a tough road, they know that you were there for them when they were tough, and so they'll reach out to you, and that'll be an opportunity for you.
Yeah, the pain that you're describing, Christ is familiar with. I was just reading in the Gospels recently in Matthew, where Jesus is standing over Jerusalem, and he's weeping over Jerusalem, and he says, I would have gathered you, to myself, but you wouldn't have me. And it's the same pain that parents go through a lot of times. I've got 4 kids with a 5th on the way. You see things in your kids that grieve you, but you feel powerless to change them from the outside. And even the prodigal son, the parable of the prodigal son, that father was probably in deep pain as he watched his son go out and self-destruct. And you can feel the same pain with your friends. But ultimately, yes, like the guys were saying, like that radical love, that radical availability that waits and prays. Don't underestimate the power of prayer.
Right.
And sometimes the only way some people can learn is through experience. The son and the prodigal son, he could have heard all the right advice. The only way he could learn was the hard way. So some people are just going to go their own way, but we have to respect their freedom, their free will, but pray for them because God can change their heart from the inside out.
Yeah. I also get some of those Holy Spirit nudges sometimes, like you were talking about, but usually mine are like, I should eat more M&Ms. And so I do.
That may not be the Holy Spirit, David.
I think the Holy Spirit wants me to have cookies. Yeah, but so
hopefully that
I
helps.
hope that helps. I mean, there's nothing you can.
It's tough.
There's
man.
nothing you can do about it sometimes. That's the hard reality.
Except pray.
Yeah, pray.
And fast.
Ooh,
yeah,
pray and fast.
Fasting for them is also a really good one. That's something that. So we just went to Clear Creek Abbey, which is a monastery not too far away, and one of the monks gave a talk, and he said, "Gentlemen, if you want you want your family to be holy? We're like, yes. And he's like, fast for them once a week. And then come back to me and tell me in a year that your family life isn't better.
Yeah.
And so if you truly love them, pray and then fast for them.
Yeah. One time I had a friend who told me that he hadn't been to confession in years because he had this, he would get this weird buzzing in his ears every time he would go to confession. And I told him, that's crap. And I literally told him, I will not eat food again until you go to confession. If I die, it will be your fault.
The old hunger strike.
Yeah. And I told him, no food will touch my mouth until you go to confession. So you better tell me as soon as you do, because I'm going to be hungry. And it worked. I think it was the next day. Luckily he didn't test me
6
too
days
far.
later, Dave was in the hospital, but he did.
Yeah, but it worked, So.
All right.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's give a round of applause for our two question askers, our two questioners. On with the show, right, fellas?
Yeah, let's do it.
3.
Okay, let's do it.
Is this number 3? Yeah, this is 3. Yeah.
Third segment.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show here at SEEK21 College Station. Gig'em. That's where Bishop David Condola was.
Our
your
bishop.
guys.
He's from there.
Yeah.
He was the
He's
pastor
awesome.
at St. Mary's Catholic Center, where most of these students go to Mass on Sunday. And
So you guys
Get
know
their-
how good we got it.
Right.
shout out to Bishop David.
Boy, if you guys didn't say anything, we were going to have to post that and put something in because that would have been embarrassing. Yeah, ugh.
You've got a cheer track, right?
Yeah, we got a cheer track we'll have to throw in there.
We'd have to find one at least.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about friendship still.
Yes.
And friendship is one of those things in life you have to get right. You have to try to get it right anyway, because it serves a crucial role in the spiritual life. You can ask yourself, why is it that we're made the way that we are? Why did God make us with this need for communion with other people, right? We have this. You just look at Adam in the garden, he needed Eve. He needed a holy friendship. We're made for communion. He could have made us otherwise. He could have made us so that we didn't have this deep need to be with other people, but he didn't. And ultimately, I believe the reason is that earthly friendship prepares us for heavenly friendship, that we have to get earthly friendship right so that we can get divine friendship right, that we can perfect more and more that friendship with God. So earthly friendship is a way of preparing us for heaven. So it's crucial that we get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why. Yeah, who said that? I think when we had Dr. John Cutterback on, he was talking about how it is. Friendship is literally prepares us for the divine friendship in heaven.
Yeah. And so when you see passages in the gospel where Jesus is looking at his disciples and telling them, I no longer call you servants, but friends. Okay? That line, I think, certainly the profundity of it went right over my head for most of my adult life. When you realize what is friendship, especially this authentic level of friendship, it's my entire life. I give you everything that I have, okay? And so that's one thing when, someone says that to you, you have this great friend and they give you everything. That's awesome. But when the God-man says it to you, it's a totally different thing, okay? So when Christ is saying, I call you friends, he's saying, I'm giving you everything that I have. I'm giving you my whole self, right? And of course, he invites us into that friendship at every Mass. But so that's why we have to get it right. That's why it's an important topic, because if we're doing it wrong, then it has literally eternal consequences, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what they say. The saying, Thaddeus, is that you're kind of the average of the 5 people that's closest around you, and so if those 5 people aren't holy men or women, then they're going to reflect. You're going to rub off on them, or they're going to rub off on you. A great example of that is Saint Augustine, right? If you read the Confessions, when he was young, he went and stole a pear, not for the sake of he was hungry, not because he was trying to feed somebody, but for the sheer fact that his friends were doing it, and so he wanted to do it too, like just for the pure evilness of stealing this pear. And then you go 30 years later and you see Augustine with Saint Ambrose, and he realizes, I have to change my life. Saint Ambrose is there for him, and he has to put prayer and make sure to have strong friends around him to change it. So, I mean, there's so many ways that you can fall into having bad friends and not realizing it until you have these moments of conversion yourself.
Right.
And that's when it's so important to have, these people around you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is a little bit cliche, that whole, you're the average of the 5 people closest people to you, but it's just true. I mean, I can when I got married, I act more like my wife now than I did before we were married, and she acts more like me. I mean, her jokes have really gone way downhill. She used to be really, really funny. She used to be so funny, and now she's just not. And it's like, that's my fault. Okay, guys, it's on me. I get it.
Right.
But like, just an example from my own life. I was raised in a good Catholic home. I went to Holy Mass every Sunday my entire life, except for one where a buddy of mine was on my downhill go-kart and
broke his leg.
It was bad, and so I stayed home. It was on a Sunday morning, and it's I stayed home while he was sitting. Anyway, there was one tragic moment, okay, that caused me not to go to Mass on one Sunday in my life. So I get to college. Here I am. I'm a freshman in college. The first Sunday, I went to Mass. Okay, I was proud of myself. Made this decision all by myself. But my roommate didn't. He was also Catholic. He didn't go to Mass, and I remember that pressuring me. He wasn't pressuring me. I want to make that clear. He wasn't saying, "Oh, you're going to Mass. That's dumb." He didn't do any of that. He just didn't go. So the second Sunday I was in college, I didn't go, and I felt bad on that first Sunday when I didn't go to college, when I didn't go to Mass. The very next Sunday when I didn't go, didn't feel bad at all. It was like that. It was so quick to abandon this lifelong habit that I had been raised with, right? So fast forward, then, and Adam, I think you had a similar experience in college. Then we lived together after college, and then we started going back to Mass together. And the fact that we were, both made that decision was something that really solidified that and helped me make that a habit again. So in both of those situations, I had a friendship that was influencing my own behavior. Just to be clear, my choices were my choices. I chose not to go to Mass. I don't at all blame anybody else other than myself for that choice, right? But we have to be just aware that these, friendships have a very powerful effect on the choices that we make. And so we need to be very careful. I mean, I just look back at my own college experience. I should not have been friends with a lot of the people that I was friends with. I was just spending time with them was a bad choice.
Yeah. I think it's an important point that, as Americans, Texas, Oklahoma, this is cowboy country, right? We have this very individualistic mindset. We stand or fall alone. We're pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. We're very individualistic just because of the history of America and just the way that America was founded. And, we're very much about our own individuality.
Right.
But if you really look at our experience, life is relationships. Life is communion. Mm-hmm. Life is an ebb and flow, a sharing between. And like you're saying, if what you're communing with is sinful and harmful, it's going to affect your soul. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. And likewise, though, if who you're communing with is holy, you're going to grow. You're going to be elevated by that relationship. But relationships, communion is inevitable. ultimately.
Right.
And that's the nature of how God designed it.
So Adam, what the counter argument to someone I can picture someone saying, well, so you've got these friends, so you're just going to abandon them? Like, what about them? Who's going to help them be a better if you're just going to leave?
Right, who's gonna be there for them?
Right, yeah.
No, and
are you just supposed to abandon them then?
No, because as baptized Catholics, we're called to evangelize. Jesus said, "Go and baptize all nations in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit." So it's not that we're abandoning them. We're not going to try. We're not just like bailing on them,
right,
so to speak. But if you understand, like I'm called to holiness, and I have to. If you're friends, do not let other friends sin. So
correct.
if they're leading you to sin or they're allowing you to sin, maybe they don't care about you as much as what you think they do.
Right. Or they do, they don't know what the good is to be pursued.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing is that, well, you don't necessarily abandon the person, but if being with those people, if the things that you do together with them tend to, be things like that drawing you to the near occasion of sin or sin itself, then yes, you abandon them because you need to abandon the sin. If there's a way to abandon the sin and still maintain a relationship with them, that's great. That's
right.
what you should do.
That's to strive for.
Right, but it is better to seek a new friend who is going to be an authentic friend, and simultaneously remove sin from your life. Right, so we can't be sinning. That's like the bottom line. Don't be sinning. If your friends, if your friends are causing you to sin, cut them off. Right,
yeah.
I think that's how it goes. Right. But it's just something that I didn't examine very well when I was in college or high school, or it wasn't until after college, several years, that I finally kind of like pulled my head out of the clouds and said, "Hey, I am not ordering my life towards the highest goods."
Yeah, and it's like this. Another aspect of looking at this is the necessity of boundaries in relationships. We kind of associate this notion that loving someone means letting them do, say, or whatever they want to do to you. They can influence you without limit. Well, no. Like, you can still love someone and still place boundaries on the relationship. Hey, man, I'll hang out with you, but we're not going to do X, Y, or Z.
Right.
Or whatever. You can place those healthy boundaries in relationships, and what you'll find is it totally changes the dynamic of the relationship in a positive direction when you have boundaries. And this goes for dating relationships just as much, or any relationship in your life. Boundaries are essential to healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines, I was going to ask a question: Is it a distinction without a that distinction, or is that a distinction without a difference?
Okay, so
let's pick this up between the breaks, on the break, because you were cutting out there. So hang on just a second. We'll be right back. This is the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team,
the winning side.
So raise your glass
of water.
It's nice and cold.
Yeah,
so,
Thaddeus, we're not
Thaddeus.
sure what you said because you kind of cut out on us.
We started to get the beginning, and then when the background music got loud.
Sorry. Before I do that, hey, the keynote is going to start at 2:45. Y'all are welcome to leave to go to do that, or you can stay for this last segment of the Man Show and then go in late to the keynote. Spencer said it's up to you to make that decision. Thank you all for being here today.
We will judge you. We will judge you.
Yeah, and if we
said we will,
Thaddeus, if we the last segment's only 12 minutes, so if we do a quick turnaround here, we can actually wrap it up beforehand. So I'd hate for people to have to miss anything.
I think maybe let's do that and get in that last segment.
Cool.
For the SEEK attendees. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, joined by our friend Sam Guzman. We're talking about seeking a holy spouse. This is the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life, is who you marry. I'll tell you, like, I nailed it personally. So I'm the
I
guy,
did too.
like, I'm the guy to give you advice because I did it. I did it so well.
I think I'd say I probably nailed it more than you did. So I'm
Oh,
probably
well,
actually,
you know, it's not a. I didn't realize it was a competition here, Thaddeus, but I'd be willing, be willing to participate. You have your wife meet my wife, and we'll see who's like
see what
more
they
virtuous or something, right? I don't know how we're gonna measure this, but it would be quite the event.
Yeah.
So seeking a spouse is one of the most difficult things when you're doing it. After I got married, I remember looking back on dating and seeing like, dating was so easy. You know, I could, like, if I knew what I knew now, if I could go back, like, man, it would be a breeze, and it would be fun and all these kinds of things. But I'm a slow learner, I suppose. But it's okay because it worked out. So, Adam, how
Did
is
you like friends, Dave? Did you date a lot of girls that really you shouldn't have? Was it kind of a similar sort of dynamic?
Yeah, well, there was definitely some of that. I tended to stay in relationships too long. I was,
But they have your CDs in their car.
yeah, it just wasn't good. It was not good. Some of it was bad, yeah. But I'm thankful for every minute of it because it got me to where I am today, right? So praise God for that. Adam, I would like to ask you, how is the spousal friendship similar and different from authentic friendship with those who are not your spouse?
Okay. Well, there's certain things that you do with your spouse that you don't do with other friends.
Sure.
We'll get that. We'll take that and put that
like
to
I
the
don't
side.
I don't do your dishes.
Really?
No, you do not. Yeah, exactly. Same. Yeah. Some of the similar things though is that prayer and fasting is still there. For guys out there and gals out there that are not married, go to e5men.org, and even if you're not married, you're fasting and praying with a bunch of other people in communion with them on the same day of the month for your future spouse.
Mm-hmm.
For your spouse if you are married,
spouse,
or
yeah.
for your spouse if you're married. So prayer and fasting are things that you can still do, obviously, with in authentic friendships and in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I kind of already said some of the differences.
So it was interesting. When Aristotle was writing about spouses, he actually said, and I think as Christians we can say that he was incorrect about this, but he said that spouses could not be friends because at the time when he's writing, men and women occupied different social statuses, and so you can only be friends, he was saying, with someone who's at like the same level as you. Authentic friendship, because if it's less than that, then there's going to be this sense of benevolence or something. Is like it's not giving and receiving on equal portions. Like, oh, if I'm friends with like someone who's way better than me, just like a cardinal, or then people are going to say, and it would be correct, that, well, he's friends with you because he's nice. Like, I doubt he's receiving the same life-giving graces from you that you're receiving from him, and that would probably be true, right? So Aristotle
was a chauvinist pig.
Well, that's one way to analyze what he's saying, but it was really Christianity that came along and brought to the like cultural norm that women and men are of equal dignity. It wasn't until Christianity came that, before it, that wasn't a thing, right? So we can now look at the spousal relationship so much differently from what all other philosophers and cultures did prior. And so, that's why it's so important. That we elevated it to a sacrament, mm-hmm. right? And so that shows the importance of it. You've got baptism and all these other great sacraments, and marriage is one of them. So it's your vocation, right? So the spousal friendship is obviously, when you are married, is going to be the primary relationship in your life, earthly relationship. Obviously, Christ is always the first, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so when you're looking for a spouse, Sam, what should you be looking for?
I would say first and foremost, just fundamental shared values. I think there's a lot of wiggle room for different personality types, different interests, things like that. But when it comes to the non-negotiables, we have to determine what those are, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
But once we've determined those, like, they have to be in common, or there's going to be a fundamental crack in the foundation of your relationship from day one.
Right.
So, for example, raising your children. Or
Right.
even having children.
When children make it way more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, she says, I just want to have a dog. I don't want to have kids. Like, okay, there's probably a red flag there for a Catholic man who wants to be a husband and father someday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, another, non-negotiable, how are we going to raise our kids, in the faith? Now, I admit that there's some great marriages that started off where they weren't Catholic at all. They had no conception of faith or morals or virtue or any of these things. And then they discovered them together along the way, and they grew together in that journey. So I'm not saying this is like the way, but if you're already a committed Catholic, you already know what's important to you, look for those same values in your spouse. And where you want to live, the city or the country, different things, like, it's just, those things aren't as important. But like how you want to raise your kids, your faith, like, your morality, like, those things are all things that you have to have in common, or your marriage is just going to suffer from day one. Like, it's just going to be a battle. And don't marry somebody with the intention of converting them.
Terrible idea.
It's probably a bad idea.
Actually, a common idea, though.
Yeah.
I think so, Adam, do you recommend for a Catholic to date someone who's not Catholic?
See,
I'll answer the question.
I mean, you and I don't agree on this.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, because I think that it's okay to date somebody. I think that there is...
I think it's okay. I just don't recommend it.
I think that you have to... Like what Sam was saying, the foundational issues on this are something you have to definitely talk about, because then when you get kids involved and things like that, that makes it a lot more difficult.
Right. Yeah, see, so the way I look at it is the same thing as having an authentic friendship. So... You can't have an authentic friendship with an atheist because they don't know what the good is to pursue. They can't direct you in the right way. And so if we're talking about that with a friendship, how much more important is that for a spouse? If you're dating someone or choosing to, because in the beginning when you're, it's not like, oh, we're engaged and now I'm hearing this advice. It's like, I'm not saying break off your engagement, but when at the step one, are you going to choose to date somebody who's not Catholic? It's very easy just to say no in that beginning, because you're expecting them, like, oh, I want you to, you kind of ultimately driving towards the I expect you, or I want you to convert so that we can can get married.
Yeah, the only I'm kind of with Adam on this one with one important caveat. How open are they to the faith? Like,
sure.
If there's that hostility there, they can't stand Catholicism or even religion in general, okay, that's probably a problem.
That's an issue. Sure.
If they're a committed Protestant, who's curious about the faith, that wants to learn more about it, tell me about, like, there's a difference there that I think is worth noting.
Right.
So I would say it depends.
Yeah.
But,
so, in that situation, I think it's helpful to distinguish between dating and courting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so dating is kind of a confusing word. If you're spending time with a member of the opposite sex, and you're developing a friendship, are you dating? It's like, I don't know. It's hard to say. So there's nothing wrong with getting to know a woman better, or a gentleman better, who's someone like that who's maybe open-minded to the Catholic faith, and as you develop that relationship, just as strictly on a friendship level, which is what you should be doing anyway in the beginning, does it look do they on their own accord make that move to say, like, I'd be interested more in the Catholic faith? At that point, that becomes more of an open door, I think, if we're pursuing seeking a holy spouse. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it makes sense to seek a spouse who is not Catholic. From, like, if that's, you're making a decision in the beginning, say, like, well, if I'm going to date someone, I'm going to date someone who's Catholic, right? Because I want someone who's going to be able to be that spouse, be the spouse I need them to be. Because let's be honest, we're broken, and we actually need our spouses to help get us to heaven.
Right. That's the vocation. That's what the vocation
right.
is
I mean,
called
that's what it is. And so if we're, uniting ourselves to somebody who doesn't even who refuses to look at the map, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then I just think that's a bad idea. I'm not saying that you won't get to heaven. I'm not saying that you won't have a happy marriage. That you still won't. That life won't still be beautiful and great. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in the beginning, when you're making these choices early on, to me it's prudent to say I'm going to date someone who's Catholic, as opposed to not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Thaddeus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think y'all covered a lot of my thoughts. I was going to say, I think it's important to look at the telos of marriage, and David covered that the purpose of marriage is to get your spouse to heaven, and also to procreate and
be open to life. Yep.
Yeah.
Open to life, procreate the species, and so naturally, someone who is a Catholic is going to hopefully be on the same page, or be open to being on the same page of the truth of what the end of marriage is, of what the purpose of marriage is, and you're going to both work together in a beautiful synergy to help get the children, to get your spouse to heaven, and then importantly, because children are fundamental to marriage, raising the children in the faith is going to make raising them in general much better. They're going to be people. The practical effort of it is going to be better, and let's say easier in a sense.
Certainly.
And so you want to have your spouse who's on the same page with you about that, and you're both raising them to those same fundamental values. And so I think it's, let's be honest, when you're dating, I mean, you want to put yourself in the best position to find a good spouse and to have a happy marriage. And so I think you're putting yourself in a better position when you choose to date someone who's Catholic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is my own opinion, but I think dating someone who's not Catholic should be the rare exception and not the rule. It shouldn't be something we're striving for. And I understand that other people are going to disagree with me on that, but that's, I agree with exactly what you said, Thaddeus, that as a Catholic, we should be, yes, you're welcome. We should hang out more often. Just ordering what we're doing, ordering our life towards the truth and reality and the end goal, beginning with the end in mind. Anyway.
Yeah.
One last thought, though. You mentioned courtship. I mean, it's kind of a old-fashioned, old-timey word, but at the same time, I think the principle applies. If you're going to date somebody, date to marry, or date with the intention of discerning, is this person spouse material or not, and then move towards that with intentionality.
Right. Yeah, dating is not about having fun. It's about pursuing marriage.
And I think a lot of people just use it as like an outlet for their need for emotional intimacy or even physical intimacy, sadly, sometimes. But like, just date to marry. Just set that intention. Like, I'm not going to waste time just goofing off and all this. I'm looking for a spouse.
Right.
And I'm going to go after that.
Yeah.
Kind of like recognizing that dating is not supposed to be leisure, but the person whom you are dating, you can pursue leisure activities together. But dating is not supposed to be a leisure activity.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dave. I'll send you that $20 over Venmo.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Hey,
is there any other questions or anything?
Yeah. I've got time for a question. If
anyone want to come down
ask
for a question?
Dave loves to suspense answers.
Awesome.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and ask the gentleman a question.
All right, howdy. I'm Karen Gallagher. Hi, I'm a sophomore here at Texas A&M University, and as a young lady who has listened to a couple of your podcast episodes and love what y'all talk about, love what you do, all things for older brother, what advice do you have for single Catholic young ladies who are pursuing the vocation of marriage? Like, what made your wife stand out from all the other women who walked into your life? Like, help, please.
What stood out with my wife is one, obviously she's beautiful, but also just her motherly instinct, like her desire to nurture, and to her desire to want to help other people, and keeping other people in mind before herself. She's constantly thinking about, how do I help somebody else before ever helping herself, and that was super attractive to me. That's what really drew, obviously her physical attraction, but once I got to know her motherly instincts that she had, her authentic womanhood, really stood out.
Yeah, I will tell you that there was a lot of, when I started dating Lady Pamela, everything about our relationship was so much better than everything else. It was the first relationship. I had always pursued chastity in relationships unsuccessfully until she and I started dating. Finally, I dated someone who was on the same page with me. Like, we both, everything, our values were together. I mean, it was just so much better. And it wasn't until I dated her that I realized and finally learned what intimacy really was. I mean, just sitting there in a deep conversation was drastically more intimate. But that's not what your question is. I will tell you, here's something you should avoid. Under no circumstances should you ever marry a man who cannot fast. If a gentleman cannot fast, then he is not worthy or ready to be married. If he cannot deny himself the simple his simple appetites for food, then he's not good enough for you. So
because he won't he'll put himself first. I mean, and that's the thing. It's the sacrificial love, right? It's
right.
Change out the "I love you" with "I will sacrifice for you," and see what how that affects your relationship with the person.
Yeah, look, the ladies I feel terribly for, because I just look at the Catholic young adults here in Tulsa, and it's packed full of all of these eligible young ladies. Mm-hmm. I've told guys before, like, look, if you want a date, I can give you 3 choices for tonight. And it's
man up, guys.
I don't know.
Come out.
Like, I don't know what the deal is. It's like
there's a bunch of
guys.
Like
what are you?
Super holy women out there.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I feel terribly, but God, trust in the Lord. He will.
Yeah, but
He will deliver you.
Receptive.
Oh, I would tell you. Okay, yeah, Juan. So the moment that I've never swooned in my life, right? It's not something men do, but I almost did one time.
I was so close.
I was really close. By the grace of God, I pulled up. So I was dating Pamela, and she was telling me her life motto that she just had adopted for just her life, and that was just receive. That she was trying to be like Mary and just receive. And when she said that, I was like, oh, woman, you were going to get married so bad. Oh, and I was right.
And then you married her.
Right, yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, for me and my wife, when I met her, it was we actually met online, but that's another story. We weren't Catholic at the time, but what attracted me to her was, first of all, she did want to have kids. She wanted to be a mother, and she said, I want 6 kids. I'm like, okay, that's awesome, because I wanted a big family too.
Uh-huh.
And that's pretty hard to find, someone who wants to do that. But also her strength, like she's been through a lot. She's a strong woman, like, and she's super practical, super I was a mess at the time, like just chaotic, and just disorganized, forgetting everything. I was like, man, I like admire her like practical know-how, but also just again that inner like strength that she had as a woman, and it doesn't have to be contrary to this notion of femininity. Like, women don't have to be fainting all over the place. Like, that's not. Like, women can be strong too in a feminine way, and my wife is, and so I was drawn to that, and yeah, my wife's awesome.
She's very joyful.
We're not going to start the contest over again, but my wife's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't realize we were.
Let's just put it out.
We was silly time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that help you at all? I hope it did. Thank you.
Take a hat.
Yeah, grab a hat.
One last question. Time for one more question?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Brandon, senior here at A&M. Just wanted to ask y'all, how did y'all pursue y'all's wives in a holy fashion?
Go ahead.
We started praying. We started praying together. And that was huge for us, like foundationally, because prayer is so intimate. And you get to know the person very well because you find out what they're really struggling with, what they're needing your help with, and vice versa. You become very vulnerable in prayer. When you're struggling with, I'm struggling with this and I need your help in prayer. It also built the foundation for us to have a regimented prayer life as a couple, as a husband and wife, which is something that you have to do. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier in the episode, you have to be intentional about it. You have to set aside that time, and under no circumstances does that time get voided out. Like, you cannot give that up for any reason. And so that was the biggest thing for me was that once I found out that we were on the same page on these foundational issues and that we were both striving to live a holy life and we wanted to have a family, and Haley was actually joining the church. She was not even baptized when we were actually dating, but she was completely open, and she received 5 sacraments in 3 months. So, which was awesome. Like, she just was like super holy at that point. And so that was the biggest thing for me, is like once we were all on the same page, was to make sure that we had a prayer life scheduled together, even when we were not married.
I didn't. I was an idiot. I was extremely immature. If I could go back, though, I would love to have been a man when I got married, like already.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, like, marriage has made me a man.
Sure.
Just in the sense of taking responsibility for myself, taking responsibility for...
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great... Marriage is awesome.
Right.
It's a great sacrament. But anyway, I was just stupid and selfish and immature, and like, just looking back at some of the insensitive things I did when we were dating, or just the inconsiderateness, or just I tried to incorporate prayer and things like that, but by and large I was just kind of selfish, like, and I know, thank God my wife was patient with that and like endured some of my stupidity, but I regret not pursuing her in a more holy fashion. Like I said, we weren't Catholic at the time. We didn't have that like rich and deep kind of framework for understanding virtue and things like that. That's something we kind of discovered together. But I wasn't there at the time, and I regret that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously there's the baseline stuff about establishing chastity as something that you pursue together. I mentioned in many of my previous relationships I was kind of the only. Chastity was up to me. The people I dated, they were fine with that, but if I was having a moment of weakness, they were also fine with that too. So you have to be on the same page with that, because that's the only way it will work. It doesn't work in my experience otherwise. So you have to have these things in common. You have to, and I got to the point where I was saying on my first date with somebody, this is the kind of relationship I'm pursuing. And if that's not something that you're pursuing, then this has been a very effective discernment that we can no longer date, right? It's like, this is what I want, and I'm looking for somebody who also wants these same things. And just be very honest and open about it right up front, because otherwise it's just a waste of time. Like, it took us 2 months to realize you didn't want kids, Right. Oh, I guess I should have asked you that a long time ago. So just from the beginning, and it's not like you go up to somebody's like, "Hello, I find you attractive. Would you like to discuss children?" It's like, that's not.
That's how you get the cops called.
Obviously, not what you should do.
Don't do that.
I also have found that ineffective. Okay, so just make it clear that you and her are both discerning God's will. Okay, and if you decide to get married, it will be because you have both come to the determination that it's God's will for that to happen. And so in order to do that, you have to do things like Adam mentioned, praying together, being that spiritual leader so that she knows, because part of her discernment is going to be, is this man capable of leading my family spiritually? So you have to show that you can be that guy. That's.
And I want to, what you said earlier about like being able to fast, like work on yourself, guys. Like work on yourself. Don't make your wife put up with your crap for 5 years before you get your act together.
Right.
Like work on yourself so that you can enter marriage with that foundation of virtue, self-control, self-sacrifice, self-denial. Because you're going to need it when you get married.
Right.
Marriage isn't just a cakewalk. There's a lot of sacrifices and challenges involved. And the more you can prepare yourself for that internally, like if I was talking to my younger self, I'd be like, dude, start working on yourself.
Right.
Because it's so essential to marriage.
The last advice I would say is that in order to prepare yourself for marriage, you first should discern the priesthood. You will not be capable. I don't think you're ready for marriage unless you have said, I have discerned that this is in fact the vocation I'm being called to. So many men just assume, I'm obviously going to get married, and so they just go forward without ever stopping first, because before you get to marriage, are you even called to the married life in the beginning? Maybe you're called to religious life or,
the priesthood.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and anything that you learn in priesthood or like discern in priesthood is only going to make you a better husband and father in the long term.
And I have also noticed that if like the ladies find out that, you discerned out of seminary, that's sort of like I'll go on a date with him. He discerned out of seminary, did he? Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't realize.
The last drum I want to beat one more time is, guys, just ask the girls out. As David was saying, there's just eligible Catholic girls all over the place, virtuous Catholic girls. Not always, but there's a higher ratio. And like, ask them out. Face your fears. Put yourself on the line. There's gonna be failure, and that's okay. That's part of the process. You're gonna fail, but God's gonna meet you halfway when you act. So don't just be paralyzed by fear and insecurity and what if she says no, and like just do it. Just do it and leave it in God's hands. And if she says no, it's okay.
Yeah. Just ask her again later.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you all. Let's give the Catholic Man Show one last round of applause.